All right. Welcome back to another live episode of Seminoles Sideline 365. We are coming to you right after the FSU Spring Showcase that just wrapped up here a couple minutes ago out of Tallahassee. And as always, welcome back and thanks for coming by. I am your host, KB, and not with me is the old man as he is still traveling overseas. We'll be back a little bit in early May, but I'm glad to have you. Glad to be by. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for coming by. Subscribe, share, and tell a friend. If you hate what we're talking about, comment, let us know. But if you like it, leave your comments below because we'd love to hear what you have to say about today. Today was an interesting day for the Spring Showcase. I think it was very similar to last season's when you saw a defensive dominance to some degree. You'll say, there's a lot of points put on the board today in terms of scoring, but primarily by one side, right? I think there were some flashes by both sides, primarily, the starters on the offense. You saw them put up some numbers. Just looking at looking at some of the numbers here, someone released a quick photo of the quickie statistics that the media team at Florida State put out. I think it was just coming out recently, so we'll look to see if that comes out. I'm trying to verify if those are real or not. But yeah, you saw like 38 points of scoring once again in a controlled scrimmage environment. So yeah, some good and bad things. So we'll talk about those things for a couple of minutes today. I just want to get my quick reactions to it. But I think overall wasn't a bad day. I think your starters did what you expected them to do. Some consistency, some things you got to clean up. I think probably the most disappointing. Well, let's start with the good things, right? I think Jordan Travis played as well as you expected him to play today. He came in, no injury. I think that's a good thing. No injuries to your starters today, right? Johnny Wilson didn't play, to my knowledge, at all, or just wasn't featured. But once again, I said that on Thursday. I didn't think he should play at all. No, you know what you have in him. There's no risk getting him hurt, and let the other wide receivers shine. So no, he didn't play. No injuries to him. Jordan Travis had 4 or 5 series in the game total. First one started a little shaky. Threw that interception to Kalen DeLoach. Kind of stared down the receiver on that throw, and he paid for it. Those are obviously things that you don't want to see against LSU in week 1 because that's a team that will make you pay for staring down a receiver, close to your sideline like that. But he rebounded very well, right? Couple of those deep throws to across the middle to Jaheim, I think it was. A couple to Kentron, KP. That touchdown throw to KP was beautiful, being the DB there. Perfect placement in the back of the end zone where only he could get it. I thought Jordan Travis played really well, and he uses legs effectively, right, to get out of trouble, to elude the defense, get out of pressure, and that's what you expect from him, right? I think he had a very, very good game today. Looking at the other quarterbacks, I think it's been clear. It's pretty clear now that, in my mind, and we also discussed this on Thursday, I wanted to see what the other backup quarterback options were. Was it Tate? That would be the solidified number 2. Could AJ Duffy surpass him? Is Brock Glenn a phenomenal freshman that could, he came in as an early enrollee. Could he be someone that competes for the number 2 slot? I think it's clear today that, in my mind, Tate is the guy. He did what I wanted him to do. He took control when he was in. He looked confident and made some darn good throws. Some throws that, for example, that throw to Rodney Hill in the back of the end zone on, I don't know if it was a wheel route, but Rodney Hill breaks out to the right, goes down the sideline, beats the defensive back, or beats the linebacker. Tate hits him in the back of the end zone for a perfect ball. That's what I wanted to see out of Tate today, and Tate delivered with confidence, right? He didn't make any dumb plays. He didn't make very many. I think he had one maybe kind of so-so throw, questionable throw, which was another stare down. But for the most part, he controlled the offense. He made quick decisions. He processed things pretty quickly. Didn't take unnecessary sacks, sacks in this game scenario, right? So I was impressed with what he showed today, right? So in my mind, and then when AJ, what did AJ do today? as a as a now a second year player in the system. Like I said, I'm not the biggest AJ fan. I think a lot of people are. I'm really not. And once again, that there's no statistics for me to not like the guy, right? It's just my personal opinion of what I see from him. I think he's still slow at processing the field. And that's to be expected, right? The guy's only been in the program for a year plus. And so I think for a young quarterback, he's still learning to process the field quickly. I think he used his legs efficiently today. And that's great that he has that athleticism to do that. And he did that the right way when the pocket broke down. But I still think he's slow to process the field. And so I think with knowing that in the way, Brock came in with backup offensive linemen, and there's a lot of pressure in his face. And when he did have time to throw, he made some great throws, right? You saw him hook up with Hakeem Williams at the end there, at the end of the game with a perfectly placed ball. He put a pretty decent elite placed ball to Darius Jacobs on that one-on-one throw on the sideline there towards the end in the celebrity coaching sessions there. So I think when you saw what Brock with his ball placement, when he had time, he could do it. But in my eyes, Tate solidified his spot clearly that he's got the confidence to make the right plays. And if he has to come in, do what he did against Louisville again, that he is your best option to replace Jordan Travis if we have to. Not that we want that to happen, obviously, but I think Tate, in my mind, solidified his spot today. He looked confident, he looked composed, and he delivered some damn good throws today, which I was glad to see, right? Looking at the running back room, I think I was happy. Once again, defensive line dominated most of the day. They applied pressure on the quarterbacks. They applied pressure on the running backs, right? It was not easy to run today, just like it was last year. Last year, defensive line dominated very much most of the game last year, and today you saw a lot of that as well. It was not easy running, but I think you saw a lot of what CJ Campbell can give you. You saw a lot of what Rodney Hill can give you. Toafili, it looks like he's got a little bit bigger, still has a lot of that shiftiness, which is great to see. So, in my mind, you saw a little bit of Trey Benson. I think it was good to limit his carries. You put the green jersey on him, limit his contact. You don't need him getting hurt. He came out healthy, which is great. But you know what you have in him. Lawrence Toafili, was great to see some of the shiftiness in him. Like I said, him getting a little bit bigger. But with CJ and Anthony, with Rodney Hill, I would love to know your thoughts on who you pick between those two, right? I think people are going to be in the camp of, I'm team CJ. He's your number 3 guy. He's your kind of Ward replacement. Or some people are going to be with Rodney Hill, and they're going to say he's your Ward replacement, right? One of those guys is going to get the leg up, or they should. I don't think rotating 4 running backs, possibly, and we'll get into the other issue that I had, or something I had an issue with the running backs today, but rotating 4 running backs is not going to be effective. So in my eyes, I liked what I saw more out of Rodney Hill today than I did CJ. I think CJ, he doesn't, I don't know, in terms of receiving the ball, I think he's a little bit shorter. He has got slightly shorter arms. He's a smaller guy, right? He's more of a bowling ball in my eyes. He's still shifty. He's still big, but he's a little bit of a shorter guy. He's got shorter arms, so he dropped a couple balls there. Rodney just looks a little bit more, I don't know, more balanced in terms of what he can give you. So I would give the leg up to Rodney if I was choosing. I think they're both very talented, but I think Rodney's going to be your number 3 or your 2A or 2B running back, and then CJ will definitely get time in this. But I think Rodney's going to be your go-to guy, and I did like what I saw of him in face of the game today. The disappointing thing for me was, where was Keziah? I didn't see any announcements if he was out today or if he was playing not to play. So maybe I missed out on the injury report. I saw the injury report earlier in the day or earlier in the week that, guys like Darian Williamson and some of the offensive linemen and stuff like that were going to be out today. But I wasn't aware if Keziah was going to be out today. So please correct me if I missed that note or stuff like that. Because that was one of the guys I talked about Thursday that I was really excited to see. Like, see him on tape, see him with this team, see if he could emerge like Trey Benson did last year, right? And I was kind of disappointed not to see any of those, see him on the field today. So maybe there is something going on. Maybe he's dealing with an injury, stuff like that. But I was a little disappointed not to see him in action today and see what he has, because I hate for him to be buried on the depth chart, a talented guy like that. not to get reps in today because, like I said, you have an incredibly deep right back room. And I think he's going to be behind because you have two more guys that got reps today that are going to be competing for that third slot. And I don't know what's going to happen with Keziah Holmes at this point. Is he maybe he's transferring again? I don't know. With the portal reopening today, you're going to expect some guys from Florida State's roster to transfer out. You have to be expecting that. Good to see the tight ends go into that group. Saw a good catch from Kyle. Saw a good catch from Jaheim. Jaheim is Jaheim. He looked athletic. He looked fluid. You saw a great grab from him over the middle. You know what he can do. He's going to fit in very well into this offense. Towards the end of the game, you saw Kyle finally get some game tape on. He looks as kind of athletically advertised as you should expect. For his size, 6'7", 250, he moved pretty fluid down that kind of seam route down the middle of the field. I really liked what in limited role snaps for him. I like what I saw there. He doesn't look slow or sluggish in terms of his body movement. So that was good to see. It was interesting to see at the beginning of the game how many touches Preston Daniels got. That surprised me a lot. And this is another room that you're like, God, they got so many guys. You got Marquiston. You got Preston still here. You got, Jaheim and Kyle. You got Brian Courtney. I think someone's going to have to jump into the portal from this group, or I would expect it, because not all these guys are going to be able to play this year or even next year. So so maybe that's why I don't know if maybe Norvell was trying to get Preston some game tape so that if he's planning to leave, they're like, hey, look at how well he played in the spring showcase. Good luck, Preston. I love Preston because he is a true blocker. He is that blocking tight end that Norvell really got to establish in this offense when they didn't really have a lot of options, right? But and I enjoyed him getting to be kind of featured in the offense there early on. But he's not your most athletic guy available right now, especially with the guys that you just brought in or that you've recruited. And you have now 6 guys in that locker room that are going to be competing. And so I don't know what happens with Preston, right? I honestly, I don't know. I would expect 1 or 2 guys from that room probably to look at Portland. If you keep all of them, that's amazing because that just shows next year you're going to even have more depth and you don't have to recruit another guy. You shouldn't hopefully have to. But it's interesting that how many touches he got early on. It was great that he made some great catches. So it's great if you can utilize that blocking tight end who can then roll off the block and then go and catch a ball for you like he did a couple times last year. So that was great to see. Receivers. Not a great start at the beginning. Thursday I talked about wanting to see Vadarius Jacobs and see a lot of spring talk about him and he being as advertised as a true freshman impact player with his speed and his playmaking ability. And then first play of the game for him, he fumbles the kind of end around. And I was like, oh, that's not a good start, right? Then he kind of got warmed up into it. He had a couple more end-around plays where it was kind of a slow handoff in that end-around process. But I think what you saw is that if he catches that edge, he's gone. He can get you quick 10 yards. He juked out. I forgot who he juked out on a play there on the edge. But he has speed. He has elusiveness. He is, like you said, as advertised. That guy is a playmaker. And I think he's going to develop more, get more comfortable in the scheme once again. He's an early enrollee freshman. He's got to get comfortable into the system playing with these quarterbacks. And I think, he wasn't exclusively playing with Jordan Travis. So he's probably, depending on which quarterback he's been taking handoffs from in practice, things can get, out of whack, right? So I'm not going to blame him totally for dropping that ball. You don't like to see that, but as the spring showcase went on, you saw a great grab from him. You saw that elusiveness on another end around play. That wasn't very smooth, but when he got the edge, he broke off for another 10, 15 yards there. So overall for him, I give him a 7 for the day, and he showed you what's possible with him, which I think is exciting. And they have that on tape now to show other teams that, hey, this is a guy that, you got to play your game plan around a little bit. This new freshman piece that Florida State has, you're going to have to be ready for him because he can break that edge and get on you real quick, which is great to see. B. Riley, what did you miss? We were just breaking down kind of the core groups here: quarterback, running back, receiver. Like I said, Tate's number, he solidified himself as the number 2 quarterback in my eyes. Duffy and Brock didn't do enough. And for me to really move up the depth chart in my eyes, I thought Tate did a great job today in controlling the offense, and he made some great throws, which I was glad to see. Running backs, I don't know if you guys heard, like I was saying early in the show, but any word on Gonzaga, why he didn't play? I was disappointed not to see him play. I wanted to see him play. Overall, I was impressed with both running backs fighting for that third spot, and CJ and Rodney. But I would give the edge to Rodney. I really like the way that he showcased himself today. And then we talked about tight ends and what are they going to do with all these tight ends? Preston Daniels got a lot of the touches early, which was great to see for him. But then you got Kyle, who made a great catch and showed his fluidity, and he looks as advertised. Jaheim made a great catch. He's as advertised. You still got Brian Courtney. Douglas didn't really play today. You got Jarrell. You got 6 guys on this roster. I would expect one in the portal, right? One of the younger guys or more, maybe a Preston Daniels. Like I said, maybe they're trying to get Preston Daniels game tape in the spring showcase so that he can portal nicely. I don't know. I thought overall we looked pretty good. Yeah. I think overall it wasn't a bad day. The thing I think that stood out to me as a negative, and I don't want to go negative with this because I think it was a good day, was the offensive line penalties, especially from some of the starters. I think it was Maurice Smith had a procedural penalty, and then Casey Roddick had a holding call. So there was some offensive line penalties from your starters that was a little bit, got to clean those things up. I don't expect that. You don't expect that from a veteran group, right? So, if one of your, freshmen or, backups does that as they're realigning each other, aligning up with different lineups, I get that. But I don't want our veterans to be doing these procedural penalties that put into those 3rd and 13 sequences, stuff like that. So that was the only kind of negative for me. And but those are things you can clean up, right? You don't expect those to hopefully carry on to the season, as it wasn't a huge, major issue for you last year. Because I got dinged up before you, not catastrophic from the rumor mill, but they shut him down from the spring. Okay, thanks, B-Ron. Yeah, I didn't remember seeing him on like a list report, but that's good to know. And yeah, I was hoping that we would be able to see him in a showcase like this. But like you said, if he's dinged up, they shut him down. That's good to see. I just don't know how he breaks out into the depth chart, unless like before Easter he was really burning it. But once again, you saw what Rodney and CJ could do. They look great. They look good to above average today. They made some plays individually. Once again, the defensive line dominated the day for the most part. So it was tough running in a controlled environment like today. But both those guys showcased their talent. I don't know how Keziah is going to be able to. He's going to have to do it in a live game scenario when they throw him in there for 5 or 10 snaps. And he's going to have to make some game-breaking plays. He didn't have this opportunity like Trey Benson did last year, who got to really make a name for himself in the spring showcase last year, right? So that's disappointing for him. That's disappointing. Edmonds was a big negative for me. Yeah. Disappointment. But then you look at a guy like Dante Anderson, right? That guy, I think, if you're looking for a standout on the defensive side, defensive end side, defensive line side, I think Dante Anderson looked with true freshman. That guy looked like he could have some real potential. Maybe he has a Pat Payton type year, like he did, like Pat did last year, where he makes some rotational big plays for this team. He looks built. He looks as explosive. He looks ready to make some plays. And I think that's a guy that, going against some of these lower tier offensive lines in the ACC, you could use Dante Anderson in some select situations where he could eat all day, right? Maybe you give some reps off for Jared Verse and stuff like that. But Dante looks like a guy that can play right away. Maybe, not full time, but you could put him in against some of these lower tier ACC offensive lines, and he could clean up. So I'm excited to see. I was excited to see. And then Brian Turner, he showed off his speed on the edge too towards the end of the game there. I know it was against some backups, but I think he was going against Byers on the transfer on one of those, and he just beat him off the edge just with speed rush. And so to see Turner put on the Jets like that and get to the quarterback, and he got credit with the sack, that was exciting to see too. So you got some really good speed on that edge, and that was fun to see. Not worried about the O-line at all. Yeah, like I said, I'm nitpicking there. I think the veterans you have in that line. They got a lot of experience behind them. So I am not worried like I've been in years in the past. These are all things you can clean up, right? I think protection was good overall. Jordan Travis made some good plays with his legs, as did AJ. And when they had time, people delivered. So I think, like you said, it's not a big deal overall. Kezias Barrett, he's already transferred once, likely here next year, but then we'll lose the top guys from the room. Stinks for him. But like you said, I'd rather have the depth that we have than lack of depth, right? It's a good problem to have, but it does stink for him. Anderson, he would be the fourth or DN, not third. Definitely agree with you there. He stood out. He was one of those guys that, like I said, a couple of guys are going to stand out from the pack today, and Dante Anderson was one of those guys that definitely stood out from the pack today. Have they put Dante on scholarship yet? That's a good question. I would think so by now. Based on how we played today, I would hope so. Because that kid could definitely go somewhere and get a scholarship in my eyes. So that's a good question. Byers was a little disappointing too, but it's early. Yeah, like these transfer offensive linemen. He's a kid. He's a kid coming from UTEP, right? So there is going to be a speed acclimation process, I think, for them, for some of these guys. But Byers did get beat by a true freshman, so that is a little disappointing to see. But like you said, these guys are new, coming into the system, getting coached up. I don't want to judge a book by its cover in just a controlled environment like this, but it's definitely not a positive sign. But they are going against he's going against great talent on the defensive line. Iron sharpens iron, right? That's what they say. So it's good reps for these guys, good things to get on tape, good things that you now get to fix, right? So going back to position groups, like I said, for receivers, we were just doing tight ends, receivers. Like I said, Jacobs, I think, made some good plays, started off a little shaky, made some good plays towards the end. He's definitely a weapon for you. The other player that I think that stood out for me, I'm just trying to think back to it. KP. Amazing. It was great to see KP stand out today, man. And I think B. Riley and some of a couple of guys this past Thursday said it. KP is your number 2 this year in terms of who's going to be the guy next to, to take the spot of a Pookie and be that reliable receiver. Portier, Kentron did his thing. He did his thing, right? He made some amazing grabs, didn't drop many balls, if any at all, and he showed off. He made a name for himself today. He stood out, did his job well, made contested catches, and he showed you that he is ready to take that next step in his program. And it's good for him. I'm glad to see a guy like that stuck with the program, got recruited, under-recruited, stuck with the program, getting transfer out, now is ready to take that next step. So I hope for him that he does. This spring game showcase does translate to confidence on the game, onto the regular season field, because I think what we saw last year with just under 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, he has big game potential, and he could be what we're losing in Malik McClain, right? McClain had potential, didn't really get to live up to it here. And I think Kentron could be very similar to what that guy could provide you. On the defensive side, I think, like we already talked about, Dante Anderson stood out. Has great potential there. I think on other players, I don't think there was, you got what you got out of guys like those guys, you know what you have in those commodities there. The other guy, Omar Graham, made some plays. We talked about him on Thursday. I think Omar Graham, he stood out on a couple of plays there. I don't think the defensive backs were amazing today. I don't think they were bad either. But I think Omar Graham from the linebacker level was able to stick with some guys, make some breakups. I think he has very high upside from what we saw today. It may be able to make some impact plays for this team this year, which is exciting to see. Deloach, he would have had 2 touchdowns today, would have had the interception on the very bad pass from Jordan Travis. Travis just stared down his receiver, and Deloach jumps it and runs it back. And then he gets the fumble recovery when I think CJ or Rodney fumbled the ball and got stripped and taken. So Deloach did his job today. You know what you have in him. Consistency, tough guy, fast, athletic, stood out today and breaking plays today. So, and that's one thing they brought up on the broadcast, and I think it's true. Florida State was +2 in turnover margin last year, which sounds great, but when you think about Jordan Travis only had 4 or 5 interceptions last year. This team does need to get more turnovers. The defense needs to generate more turnovers, whether it's fumbles or sack fumbles or for interceptions. This team needs to create takeaways, especially against good teams, right? Jordan Travis got a lot better at controlling his mistakes and not forcing the ball and doing his job well like that, right? Not giving away the ball. But this defense, with that, needs to take the ball away more, needs to create those opportunities. When they get their hands on the ball, they need to capture it and intercept the ball, or they need to force the ball in the running back's hands, right? That's how you break games early, right? That's how you beat teams early on and break their will. So it was exciting to see Deloach go off like that. I think that's hopefully, like they said on the broadcast, is a point of emphasis, but turnovers are sometimes lucky too, right? Fumble jumps your way, stuff like that. So it's hard to measure how many turnovers you're going to get next season, right? Kadarius did, and he made some good plays too. He definitely made some plays too. I think he may have gotten beat early on that touchdown. I think he was in the zone of that first touchdown, but he definitely made some good plays on the edge as well. So that's a good point out there too, Hypnotic. Both the teams came off zone coverage. That was yes, zone coverage interceptions. Yes, because last year, like you said, our zone coverage is a little bit suspect. So that was good to see that they were playing their zone well, covering, breaking on the ball from that zone. So that was important to see. The disappointing part on it was both those interceptions, guys were just staring down people, right? They weren't processing. And that was the thing I brought up too early with AJ. AJ just looks like he's still slow at processing the field. And then he relies on his legs to break out, which is good. You have athleticism, that's awesome. But AJ still looks slow at identifying who's open on the field, which is why he still needs a year or two to develop into being a potential starter at Florida State, and where he'll battle Brock Glenn for that spot. So no, it was great to see those interceptions come from zone coverage. We saw I think B. Riley, you pointed it out on Thursday a little bit they showed from the punt return drill. We saw Ja'Kai Douglas out there returning, kind of practicing that. So interesting to see that is who they have back there, kind of doing those. There was no traffic in his face. It was just purely kicking it, fair catching it. So it wasn't any pressure drills like that they showed. It was interesting to see that Ja'Kai really didn't have any role or any catches today in the actual offensive game plan. So something maybe to watch. Like I said, people are going to take a lot out of what happened today that isn't actually going to translate into the season, right? People are going to say, oh, well, Ja'Kai didn't catch a ball today. What does that mean for his future? Is he going to stuff like that. So I don't want to over exaggerate what we saw today. But guys that did stand out, like KP and Anderson, I think those things you can say, oh, well, we saw some things on tape today that can definitely make a difference. Like we saw with Jacobs. We saw Jacobs' speed on tape today. That guy could be a playmaker for this team in the right scenarios, right? So I think that's exciting to see. Yeah, Mark, definitely agree. Kentron's for real. He just needs the reps, the opportunity, and the consistency. He's got all the physical tools, all the ability to do it. Like you said today, we saw it today. I'm excited for him to get the opportunity, and I think Mike Norvell and his team will give him all the options, all the opportunity to do it. So like you said, I think Kentron is definitely for real. Yeah, Glenn looks like he will advance faster than Duffy. Not that they'll necessarily pass him in 1 year, but a year from now, I expect Glenn ahead of Duffy right now. Yeah, to your point, I think Glenn, his offensive line was getting whipped left and right. And for the most part, he had pressure in his face immediately. When he did have time, you saw the ball placement. His ball placement was pretty good, I would say. It wasn't, elite, but he placed the ball for a guy that should still be in high school, like they said, who came to this program, 3 or 4 months ago. He placed the ball pretty well for a newly enrolled kid. So I give that guy credit for, and he looked poised in the pocket, right? You saw him step up into the pocket a little bit, look confident in there. And I think, like you said, I think he will look to, I think there's more potential for him to be the next future quarterback in Florida State than Duffy in my eyes. But like I said, it's good to have these options. I think all quarterbacks showed some good highlights today. Everyone from Travis to Duffy to Glenn, even the McNamara, right? He had a couple of good passes there at the end, right? So I think everyone today showed some good progress or some good things on tape. It wasn't just a dumpster fire of bad passes, interceptions. They put some points on the board. They drove the field. It was good to see that because it was a good defensive line day for the most part. But I think there were some good things that every player showed today. So yeah, those are my real thoughts. I like I said, I don't want to take too much of a narrative out of today. Like I said, I don't want it to be, oh, we didn't say Ja'Kai Douglas in the offense. We didn't see him feature what's going on there. We didn't see Marquiston. We didn't see, I don't want to get too in the weeds on that, right? I don't want to focus on those things because I know the media may overhype those things and the narratives out of this. But I think for what it was today, we saw good things, and we saw a couple bad things that can be cleaned up in the offensive line in terms of penalties. But for the most part, it was a good day. No injuries too. I think Lamont Green Jr. had a shoulder thing, but he gave the thumbs up. But that was a good thing. You came out clean today. No major injuries. That's amazing. So, but I think the final thought for me on this is, who do we lose after this? Transfer portal's open. You are, in my eyes, you're going to lose a couple guys after this. Just because this is the deepest Florida State's ever been, in my eyes, in terms of, deepest since maybe like the championship year, right? 2012, 13, those kind of years with the end of Jimbo. I think you're going to maybe lose some guys, maybe from the offensive side, maybe one from the running back room, maybe one from the tight end room, maybe less from the defensive side of the ball. Maybe you lose someone from the offensive line. Probably not. But you have a lot of veterans on the offensive line, which is amazing. And a lot of them are transfers, so a lot of them probably can't go. So that's a good thing. You've got a lot of transfer on the offensive line, so a lot of them can't really move. But I think you're going to lose a couple of kids here and there. Probably they're not going to be high impact players, but a lot of depth pieces, a lot of floor pieces that bring that talent floor up. So it'll be interesting to see who decides to move on in the next week or two. Yeah, McNamara looks better than Mertz. Yeah, I was actually impressed with McNamara. He looked very composed for a walk on back there. And yeah, I think it's interesting to see that Florida and the coach down there says they're going to be continuing to evaluate their quarterback options come transfer portal. So it'll be interesting who the Gators bring in to compete for the quarterback position, because they seem to be in a dire straits with Mertz and Miller. I just got we look better than Florida and Miami. I was not overly impressed with Clemson's offense either. Yeah, I need to watch Clemson's spring game. I didn't get to see how their new quarterback looks. I guess he's been there, but Klebuk, I can't pronounce his name. But I'm excited. I shouldn't say I'm excited, but I want to see how that new offensive coordinator, how he changes their offense, if at all. The guy from TCU, because we knew their offensive coordinator was not very good. And DJ was kind of, I don't know what was wrong with DJ. I know he wasn't elite, but I think it's a combination of the offensive coordinator, DJ, Klubik, or whatever his name is. It's supposed to have high talent, but if not, I need to watch their game tape just to see how that turned out. But I think, as we said on Thursday, Florida State got the primetime spot for their spring showcase. And it was for a reason, right? We have all the momentum in the state. We have the best team, the best depth, the best program running in the state right now. And it's up to the team to showcase it in the regular season. So, and continue the momentum moving forward. Burrell, Travis J, Schrader, I think you're right on B-Rye. That's a good name you brought up. Josh Burrell. Did not see him at all. Did not hear his name at all today. And that's disappointing. I know the guy's battled through some injuries, stuff like that. That would be a name that thins out that room, that doesn't necessarily impact you, but it gives him a chance to restart. That is a great name to pick up. I think maybe he needs a restart somewhere else. He's just buried at this point. Travis J, agree with you there. Schrader, he's been here for a little while. Probably not going to break out. And then Malcolm Ray, I'm like on the edge of Malcolm Ray. I don't know if I think he's got potential, but like you said, they've been recruiting over him. It seems like, he still hasn't been able to break through, and they're out recruiting over him because they have the ability to, right? So I think the writing may be on the wall for him potentially. And I think honestly, what I like about the staff, I think Norvell and Atkins and Fuller and Odell, I think they tell the players like it is, right? Because they have the ability now with where the program is to say, hey, Malcolm, hey, Travis, hey, Josh, this is how we plan to start the season. Like, this is where you land on the depth chart, right? Make the best decision for you. So I think they'll be honest with these kids. They're not going to sell them false hope of where they land, but I think these guys will have opportunities based on where they are. I think a lot of these guys have potential, but I think those are all great names, be right. But I think they will have real conversations after today with the coaching staff and some spot. These are very good candidates for potentially moving on. Burrell just started practice again. Yeah, but to that point, Himnock, like you said, I don't know, with as many guys that are in this room right now, plus the tight ends, I don't know if he's going to be able to get a shot this year. I would love to keep around because I do think he has high upside, but I don't know if he can come back, right? Or this year, if is he willing to sit another year or not get limited snaps another year? But like you said, if he's hurt, coming back from that, still rehabbing that injury, coming back, practicing again, is he going to get any traction in the portal, right? So he may be better stick around, get back healthy again, and then portal next season if he still finds himself in the same scenario, to your point. Not knocking around, just numbers thing and the injuries, roster additions have just created. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Definitely not a knock on him. It's just numbers game, right? Numbers and play time available. Not every guy can play. But I wouldn't knock him if he stayed either. If that scholarship is still for him, available for him, come back, develop, rehab the right way, get some practice reps in, and then say, hey, I'm back healthy again, and then portal out, or just see where you are in the depth chart. See how many people are still available. So that, stuff like that. So freak things happen. Or we may get 3 injuries in the receiver room. We never know in football where injuries are going to happen. Look at NC State with their quarterback situation. How many quarterbacks did they lose last year? 4? That could happen to your receiver room. That could happen to your running back room, right? So I'm not going to, if he wants to stay, I'm not going to knock having more depth in the receiver room, right? I would love to have all the depth we can at the skill positions, right? Yeah, it's a bummer that injuries have plagued him. So yeah, absolutely. It is a bummer. But yeah, anyone who transfers at this point, I'm going to wish them the best because we've luckily got to a position where we've been able to out-recruit, over-recruit at many roles in this position, especially on the offensive side, in the defensive line and defensive end. And we're in a really good spot. So I don't like to lose guys, but I get it. It's what's best for them. So, and I wouldn't expect us to bring in any other transfers if people come out. Or I don't know who we would go after other than like we said on Thursday, a punt return specialist. I'm saying put your scouts out there. Go to the FCS level D2, look for that punt return specialist. We need some guy to replace Mycah's production or its consistency potentially. So, or maybe Jakai is that guy. But like I said, and I think B. Riley said on Thursday, there has been a little bit inconsistency in the reporting on him. But I think Jakai is a great player, and I'd love to see what he can do there. But we need that surefire, sure-handed guy back there returning those kicks for sure. So, but yeah, that's going to do it. I think it was a great day for FSU football, a great day for the fans. Looked like all around a lot of positive out of today, not many negative. No one got hurt. Like I said, great day for FSU football. Something I'll miss seeing live football until September. So it'll be a long dry spell. But we'll have a lot of news next couple of weeks. The transfer portal open, so a lot of report there. And like I said, we'll be covering it as it goes live. Yeah, it's a nice spot, like you said, B. Riley. We'll be losing guys we really hate to lose. But this is one of the last cycles where we lose guys that we have recruited over. Exactly. You're totally right there. This will be one of the last cycles where we lose those guys that have recruited over. Absolutely. And then from there, it's just going to be guys who are willing to compete for those spots, right? Because you'll be getting high school guys if this season goes well. And it's great. That's the last point I want to bring up about recruiting. The only knock I've had against Mike Norvell since he's come in is his recruiting pipeline. And I can't put that fully against him because he inherited a garbage program, right? And to say you're going to get top 15, top 20 classes when you're inheriting a Willie Taggart program that's in shambles and they're coming off a 3-win season in the middle of COVID. I mean, he was in a tough spot. Then you win 3 games, 5 wins. You're selling kids on a vision, right? And people are like, oh, the recruiting cycles aren't going well. And then you lose Travis Hunter and that, stuff like that. But now the momentum's back there. If this season he can execute on the field and then lock in this 2024 class and get that top 5, top 7 class, that gets you back to being Florida State football, what we respect from the high school ranks, and not purely just transfer portal guys. I think that is the final infinity stone for Mike Norvell, right? He's got the portal going. He's got development internally. He's getting results on the field. But if he can unlock the high school recruiting pipeline and get not just commitments, verbal commitments, but National Signing Day, sign the paper commitments, and unlock that and get consistent top 5, 7 classes, sky's the limit for this. It was great to see Cam Davis shutting down his commitment cycle, right? Shutting down his recruiting cycle. Same with the quarterback, Luke, shutting it down. I don't take a lot of precedence in recruiting news because guys say I'm committing to Florida State, but we know commitments are BS, right? These guys commit 6 months. 6 months later, then they're opening their commits because it's all verbal, right? These are 16, 17-year-old kids. I don't blame them. Their mind changes every other day, right? I can't blame those kids. But a positive thing in recruiting, when the guy says, I'm shutting down my recruitment, I'm not visiting anywhere else, that's as close to signing as you can get, right? So to see 2 of the top guys in your 24 class or in this latest class say, I'm shutting it all down. I'm not visiting. I'm not taking any more visits, communications, whatever. That is very positive. And hopefully that trend continues because you don't see that happen a lot. And it's great to see that Mike's getting those types of high-value commitments from his top players in his class. Yeah, and COVID, like you said, tough situation. But I think if Mike can lock in the 24 class, and he's got to get results on the field this year, like a lot of hype in this season. He's got to get 10 wins to keep that recruiting cycle going. But if he can lock in Cam and Luke and the rest of these guys, get a top 5 class, sky's the limit, right? So I'm excited. I'm really excited, but I don't want to add more hype to the hype machine, right? So, all right, guys, that's going to do it. Great day. Thank you for whoever hosted the spring showcase on YouTube because I don't have ESPN because YouTube TV is like $90 or whatever. So I appreciate whoever hosted that on YouTube TV or on YouTube. Appreciate that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Keep in touch with the channel. We'll be doing feeds based on transfer portal news and stuff like that. And we may do some more basketball news because basketball program's in shambles right now. And I love ranting about that. So yeah, we'll see how things go. So have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy your Saturday and we'll speak soon. Take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.